Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about everything that is Spotify. Now, whilst I have done many videos on Spotify playlists and releasing a single, what I haven't done is delved really deep into the science to really allow you to hack that algorithm. Because one thing I'm definitely noticing is that there's a lot of assumption of how Spotify works. So we need to know exactly how this works so we can break it and fuck shit up. Now let me start by saying that Spotify is social media, but most people don't treat it like social media. But if you think about it, it's algorithm driven, therefore it's stats driven, so therefore it is social media. You can also get your audience to follow you, so therefore build an audience. It's got shareability, you can get notifications, you can sell your merch, you can tell people about your gigs. It's got a bio, so you can tell your story and tell people about you. It's got links to your social media. I mean, this is social media. So just like we're aiming to get more followers on Instagram or more subscribers on YouTube, it makes complete sense for us to target Spotify and try and build our fan base on that platform. So let's start with the algorithm. Now, every social media platform has an algorithm. But what does that actually mean? What it means is it's stats driven. It means it's like a subservient puppy, always trying to serve you, always trying to give you what you want and make you happy. Therefore, it searches everything, creating data in order to give you exactly what it thinks that you want. And if it gets it wrong, it punishes itself. But if it gets it right, it's high-fiving itself at the same time. Now, the Spotify algorithm consists of three parts. Number one is natural language processing, which means it defines the language that's being sung in. So therefore, it can put the language that you want to listen to in front of you. Now, that might sound completely obvious, but when you think that Spotify is in 79 countries across the world, so that's a lot of languages out there that people are singing in. So it needs to define that language in order to give you the right one. Number two is raw audio analyzation, which means it actually analyzes the tempo, the vibe, the feel, and even the key of the song in order to help it fit the right playlist and the right song into the right time. So for any of you that are trying to cram in some polytonality into your songs, then you have got a problem. That was far too much of a muso joke. Spotify's AI is trying to find out whether this is a sad song or a happy song, maybe a song perfect for working out, or even for driving not too fast so you don't get 3 points on your license. That's far too much of a British joke. And number three, which is the big one, the collaborative filtering, which basically means it's trying to look around to find the best songs according to your habits. So let's get sciencey for a minute. The AI system used by Spotify is called BART. And BART stands for Bandits for Recommendations as Treatments. It's a catchy name. I think I prefer BART. Now, BART's job is to keep you listening to Spotify for as long as possible. So it drops in fresh new tracks very carefully to stop you getting bored, but not so much that you lose interest. And the way that works is broken down into two categories: exploit and explore. Exploit and explore! Sounds like a new Slipknot album. Now, exploit is your history, it's your usage, it's your playlist, it's what you skip, it's basically you. And explore is kind of everybody else and their usage and their habits and how that fits into you and your habits. Kind of like a personal shopper. Now, BART works off a 30-second rule, so this bit's important. This means it analyzes the most amount of information in the first 30 seconds. So you need to keep people on your song for more than 30 seconds. So think about how long your intro is going to be before those vocals come in. What's going to be the catchy hook that brings people in, that keeps people on your track for those 30 seconds. So this video is kind of art versus science, but one thing we've learned from the sciencey bit is Spotify is always watching. Always watching. So how can we break this algorithm? Well, knowing how it works certainly helps. Our job is to wake up that algorithm within that first 12 to 24 hours of you releasing a single, which means it's like camp and you've got your lookout at the front of camp waiting to see what's happening, and your job is to make sure that they know you are there within that first 12 to 24 hours. Spotify is surveying the area, looking for anything out of the ordinary, and then these spikes in numbers of listens or listening time really start to matter. And Spotify is social media, so therefore does need to be treated like your other socials. And these numbers matter in order to trigger those algorithms. So what do we do in any social media circumstances? That's right, we create value. This means sorting out your Spotify page so it looks and feels great. So your pictures, your links, your bio, your merch, your gigs, all of these can now go into your Spotify page just to keep people on your page a little bit longer, which then will be noticed by the data from Spotify. Next, you need to stop thinking about Spotify being a standalone platform. Yeah, I've got all my social stuff, but this is Spotify, this is different. No. Your Spotify fits into all of your socials like one jigsaw puzzle. Your Instagram, your YouTube, and any other social media platforms plug into your socials, sending people to your single, which spikes and pushes that data through Spotify so they can see something is happening, and from that point you start getting momentum, and momentum is the #1 name of the game. Now, if you talk to people in the music industry who've been involved in having a hit record or a #1 single, they will tell you the same thing. It's all about timing. It takes months and months of work to whip up into 8 to 24 hours to really get that spikes and momentum in sales so that you get that #1 hit single. And so therefore, not releasing a song at the same time as another big artist or whipping up your fan base so everyone is excited as soon as you push the button and say now, everyone goes out and buys that single, that was the old days, or listens to that single, and all of a sudden that spike means you hit that #1 spot. And this is absolutely no different whether you're going for a hit record or you're just trying to get into some playlists for Spotify. Those peaks and those spikes, they make a big difference. Spotify is absolutely always watching. A great way of having an initial push is pre-saves, which is the same thing as kind of pre-sales. You order something and as soon as it goes live, it drops straight into your Spotify and you get it there and then. And of course, at that point, Spotify notices how many people are pre-saving, it notices how many people are listening on that day, and one more time, it's always watching. Another tip is to always release your music on a Friday, because if you have done this well enough, then there's a chance you'll get into New Music Friday, which is quite a big playlist that gets updated every single week. Then there's the labeling of your track. When you go into Spotify for artists, have you given Spotify all of the information it needs to start seeing what this track is, and more importantly, where it fits into the world of Spotify and who it should be showing it to? You need to be giving all of the information for these meta tags. Things like mood and genre, they make a big difference to help Spotify figure out what your track is. But be careful, because if you put the wrong data in and Spotify starts to show that to people who don't like your track and start skipping it quite quickly, it will also see that data, and there's just as much negative data on Spotify as there is positive data. Now, whilst you've made the music and you want to get your music onto Spotify playlists so the world can hear it, have you made your music Spotify playlist friendly? Or have you thought about writing music specifically for a certain playlist, which means you are taking into consideration the tempo, the key, the style, the vibe and feel of the track, the intro, getting those vocals in as quick as possible, even the titles which will fit into Spotify's data. A crazy example of this is, did you know that 71% of pet owners leave Spotify on for their pets at home? So Spotify now has playlists for your dog, which has been set up specifically to play calming, soothing music to your dog whilst you're not there. And when you go and check it out, every track and the album and the playlist, everything is targeted and titled to fit into that algorithm to get as much traction as possible. But you don't want to make music for dogs, I'm assuming. You want to make music and you want other people to appreciate it. So therefore, we have to bring in the power of your fan base. So then when your track drops and everyone's got it from the pre-save, I want you to do something. I want you to ask your friends, your family, your fan base, and anybody else that you can ask when you get in front of them to make a playlist of not only your track, but 20, 30, 40, 50 songs, like an old school mixtape playlist of all of their favorite songs. And where does your song fit into that playlist? Number one. You are number one in that playlist. And if you can get 20 playlists, 50 playlists, 100 playlists, which your track is now within that playlist number one, guess who notices? Spotify notices. Next, you're going to point all of your links from all of your social media to Spotify. And from this moment forward, you are going to think of Spotify as social media, because just like social media, Spotify wants you to get people to follow. So just like Instagram, when you're after followers, or YouTube, you're after subscribers, from here on in, you have a new target, which is 1,000 followers on your Spotify page. And if you've already got 1,000 people who follow you on Spotify, then I want you to add a 0. So if you've got 1,000, it's now 10,000 as your target. Your job, if you want to get traction on your Spotify with your single, is to point everything in the direction of that single and tell everyone, wait, hold, and you build up that excitement again and again, saying hold, wait, wait, and everyone is super excited, so that when you push that button, it's an explosion. Everybody goes and does that one thing at that one moment, which wakes up that algorithm. And my best bit of advice is not to think of this as one single, but to do this again and again and again, because after all, Spotify is social media, and what does social media need? It needs content. That is the lifeblood of a social media platform, the content. And content on Spotify just happens to be audio. But it can still be your single, it can be songs, it can be acoustic versions, it can be covers from someone else, it can be an audio commentary, it could be a podcast. You can still populate Spotify with audio content. So you can see that this is not about making a track, putting it on Spotify, and wondering why these Spotify playlists aren't favoring you. This is about the science behind it that allows you to hack that algorithm and wake it up. So this is a community, so why not send me links to your Spotify songs in the comment below, and everyone can get involved as well. But make sure when you do this, you are leaving a proper comment with a link, and not just the link on its own, otherwise you'll get picked up as spam, and I probably won't see it, and neither would anyone else. And that way, if anyone wants to get involved and start listening to other people's music, and we can make this even more into a community, then that would please me muchly. Please me muchly? Please me muchly. But guys, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this and it's brought you some value, if you can do me a favor, if you can hit that like button, because when we're talking about waking up the algorithm, that makes a massive difference to YouTube, and that's what I'm all about. So that would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Also, if you want a bit more of one-to-one time with me, then all of the links are on damiankeyes.com or in the description below. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.